Good afternoon, everyone. Thanks for joining us. Another edition of Two Men in Black and White, an honest conversation. I'm Mark Hayes, joined by my partner in crime, Brock Canellis. Brock, located right outside New York City, prepping for tomorrow's big day of protest. Hands off is the message. In the meantime, it's all hands on deck on Wall Street as the Dow sheds another 2,000 points as the markets endure another day of chaos, tariffs, and Trumpsters. Brock, what in the world could this moron possibly be doing that he thinks this is a good thing? Like, how is anybody in that cabinet, like, they're making the rounds saying this is good, this is great, we got to trust his instincts. This guy doesn't have any instincts. He's got 6 bankruptcies on his rap sheet.
Well,
Jeez.
it's a propaganda network, right? If you've come on board for Trump 2.0, you know exactly what the marching orders are, right? And Laura Loomer's in getting some national security guys fired because they have something on their social media from a while back that wasn't lockstep with Trump, right? So it's like if you're not, it's the loyalty test, right? So no one in the administration can say anything that's not directly down the middle of support for Trump, or you just don't have the job anymore, right? It's a binary decision. You're either on board playing the propaganda game and just saying the emperor's wearing beautiful clothes, or you're out. So they've already made that decision. I just feel like the media should discount everything said by every administration personnel because it's bullshit, and it's always spin, but this is beyond spin. This is like you have to say exactly that everything, that Trump got 18 hole-in-ones yesterday, right? It's North Korea shit.
Right. Like, but here's the thing, though, Brock. Doesn't he realize this is our money? There are no red and blue 401ks. They're all green, and all of us are losing money. Right? And well, anyone invested in the stock market in any way, shape, or fashion is losing money on a whim from this clown while he's out playing golf.
Well, but what would make you think that he cares about your money?
Absolutely nothing.
So the American people, this gets back to the whole sense of just because he has the job doesn't mean he's going to change who he is as a psychopath, malignant narcissist, and a moron, right? Like, he doesn't care about anyone else's well-being. He just mentally doesn't care. So, okay, American peoples are less wealthy now. He's proving to himself that he can conquer all these other nations, right? This is really an ego-driven action that, America, aka him as president of America, needs to get all these other countries to, in essence, take a knee. Not take a knee like Colin Kaepernick.
Not take a knee, but bend the knee. Bend the knee.
Right? And come to him begging for him to remove the tariffs, maybe, bribe him directly, personally, right, to lift the tariffs. He's just trying to, the guy was always looking for enemies and has to just win. So he's just looking for all these fights, but he doesn't care about the ramifications on individual Americans. Like that would be outside his character.
And that's so sad because, we as a country understand the globalist nature of the economy right now. There are some states that are getting, 80, 85, 90% of their exports from Mexico and Canada. What's going to happen to those folks?
When, I don't know when do people start feeling it, right? We're all feeling it anyone who owns stocks is feeling it, like we feel less wealthy now in the last 48 hours. But in terms of like the businesses, has the impact happened yet? I told you I'm in a travel related business, definitely starting to literally seeing cancellations, right? Because you get the email from your scheduling software. You got a cancellation out there in like July or something. And it's like, oh, okay. And it's an inordinate amount of cancellations relative to the normal year. So you can start seeing the creeping just in my little business, but I can imagine manufacturing businesses and the like, it's just going to start creeping in. The prices are going to be higher. There was, I guess there was like Nintendo Switch version 3, some gamer platform thing was going on today. And now they had pre-orders and they were doing some big online demonstration of it. And people were going rip shit in the chat. Because the price is
Really?
now at $449. Now they're delaying the pre-orders, and everyone's pinging them saying, lower your price, lower your price. And it turned into a little bit of a shit show because Nintendo's now delaying the pre-orders. And the expectation is that maybe now they're going to raise the price again. And, gamers, that's young kids and gamers. Ooh. And that was like a real time thing that was going on today. People
I missed that. Yeah. Okay.
But that's just once again, that's an anecdotal, but that's going to start going on everywhere.
Right. And Brock, you're saying the travel industry is your little business. It is a huge business for, the U.S. and tourism. I mean, think about how Florida got hit when they said, don't say gay. All these little incremental idiocracies from the right are adding up to big time losses for everyday Americans. People who do the boat tours, do the island tours, do the fishing trips, right? Think about all the boats on the coast and all those little businessmen.
And all those little restaurants that are there, and those selling the crab sandwiches and a beer and this and that, and they're living off of. They need the foot traffic, right? They're living off of that. That's a slice of the economy. It's just gonna get crushed, and that's gonna be slow to come back. So, but this gets back to the psychology of Donald Trump, right? So a couple of things have happened, right? The stock market tanking, right? This is complacent white America getting crushed. Who owns stocks? Who's got the portfolio of the 401k that's waiting to retire based off of a lot of stock ownership, right? So now we've really gone right into the kitchen table of that middle to upper class white guy in the suburbs, all getting crushed by what seems to them, seems to be some random unnecessary economic warfare that has really no chance of getting the outcome that they're saying. It's not like all these companies are going to start building plants here tomorrow. Right? You know what the lead time is, right? You got to buy the property. They would take years to play out. Right?
But Brock, think about why they left in the first place, right? The cost of doing business. They don't want to pay anybody health care. They don't want the cost of doing business in the U.S. That's why they're not building plants here. That's why they don't have them here, right? And all those car companies that are building plants, think about where they're building them. In the South. Right? Where they don't have to worry about the unions.
Yep.
Where they can cut out the guys who are driving up the cost of manufacturing in the U.S. Right? They're not coming back. They're not coming back. That's why we have that Rust Belt in the Midwest.
Yeah. But the thing is, this really gets us to go a layer deeper on Trump and MAGA and the oligarchy and white supremacy, right? Which we very often bunch together. But they are they're different silos, right? Because it's the oligarchy that's funded Trump, right? Musk and Peter Thiel, and it's the really wealthy white guys, a lot of tech bros who funded Trump. But because in their mind, he'll be hands-off business. They'll be able to take more of the pie. They all happen to be white, so they're attached to the white supremacy wing, right? Because they have this nirvana of America, whiter America. Then you have MAGA, who's basically, in general, uneducated, lower middle class, the poorer white person who's there for the racism. Right? They're not getting anything else out of the MAGA movement.
And don't care.
They, quote, want their country back.
You're
so
right.
They get exploited, but they get played, but they get their racism. Right? So those two groups have really come together. The funders, racist, white supremacy oriented. the underclass, which is the big numbers, the MAGA movement, which wants to have the racism, right, is all about the racism. And you really get to Trump 2.0 is really more about racism than it is about economics or anything else. And Trump's tariff move, in my opinion, helps to prove that case. Because Trump is now hurting his oligarchs, hurting sort of mainstream white America, but none of those things impact him.
Right.
Right? So he's giving his MAGA people enough where they're not going anywhere. Right? No matter what you do, they're not going anywhere. And the question is whether the oligarchs and or like the white business leaders who have bent the knee and turned a cheek and just played along because they thought he was going to be good for business, now realize he's even a business fraud. And now what are they going to do? Like, what's Jamie
Right.
Dimon Chase going to do? What's Tim Cook
Right.
at Apple going to do? What's even Zuckerberg going to do? What's Bezos going to do? Like, are they so rich it doesn't matter? Because, like, their net worth is going down more than anybody's.
Yeah.
And the tariffs hurt them more than anybody on a pure dollar basis. It's going to hurt
Right.
black people the most day to day, but on a pure dollar basis. But to me,
But do they not care?
Trump doesn't care because I think there's a misunderstanding of how pathological he is.
Yeah.
He doesn't have friends. He's never laughed, right? He doesn't have any loved ones, right? He has his kids, but like he doesn't have a natural relationship with them, right? He cycles through women who are kind of paid for brides. You know, Melania and him are basically independent entities, right? They're basically divorced, right? She's a paid actor, right?
Right.
So he doesn't have human emotion, so he's not going to connect to anyone's emotion. So at the end of the day, when people say that Trump has allies or friends, I don't believe it.
No.
Everyone's just a pawn on a board in his psychological mind. So he doesn't care that anyone is getting, quote, hurt by what he's doing, even
Right.
those closest to him.
Right.
The only thing that will impact is when he thinks the masses or something has shifted that changes his power dynamic or his ego dynamic. And it's why I think he needs to be criticized every day. He needs to be punched in the nose by as many people as possible every day. And we need to have some huge fucking protests tomorrow. It needs to be overwhelming because those are the only things that shake him. The fact that you lost a lot of money in the last 48 hours or I lost a lot of money in the last 48 hours doesn't mean shit to him.
Right.
That's my opinion as complacent white guy getting increasingly angry
Right.
as the days go by. What do you think of that take? What's your kind of view on what Trump's done this week?
I absolutely, but I'm still, I agree with what you're saying there when it comes to the complacency of white America and why aren't they up in arms about losing, their retire, especially for, those, near boomers like us who are getting close to retirement age. So I agree with your saying there. On the blacker side of things, I know that he knows that, we're the last hired, first fired. And I know that he understands how much more difficult it is for us to bounce back. And that's why when you say Trump 2.0 is all about the racism, I definitely agree. But I think there's more. I think there's more nefarious reasons behind it as well. I think he was, installed to do a job. I mean, this only looks like, he was sent here to destroy America. I mean, he's not just screwing with the economy. Like, he wants us to all get sick and die too. Like, I mean, RFK Jr. really in front of the spokesperson, the head, the leader of HHS? Are you kidding me? Like, this is not just about money. This is about the total destruction of what we know America to be. The judicial system, right? He doesn't like it. He makes a mockery of it. Congress, he makes a mockery of it. Social Security, he's destroying it brick by brick, right? Our United States Treasury, the IRS, like every branch of government, like every federal worker can't be a lazy bum. Like that you have to tear up everything in the government. It just doesn't make sense to me. And I thought our intelligence gathering services were better because I know there was a note with a to-do list sent to him. At some point, somebody told him, do this, and because he's just not smart. I just don't give him credit enough.
Project 2025, those guys, they're probably smart. They drew up a playbook, right? Their end game, slightly different than Trump's, but they intersect, right? But they have an end game of, theirs is kind of it is a white supremacy takeover of America
Sure.
because you strip down all these institutions. The institutions help the masses. So if the masses get less help, become poorer, weaker, sicker, and the like, then you're, starting to quote cleanse America in the direction that Project 2025 Heritage Fund, and these techno nirvana guys who want to start their own mini countries within the country, these utopia societies that they have in their head. So they have no problem that the rank and file America is in a much worse position. And the irony, I guess, to a certain extent, is that's left or right. Like, it doesn't matter your ideology, right? You're getting whacked over the head with the same hammer.
Right.
And I think some MAGA of course, are waking up to that. Maybe not the hardcore MAGA, but some are waking up to the fact that they're getting screwed also.
Hugely.
Not enough. I mean, they still seem to be hanging in there, but the town hall white guys screaming at empty chairs, or the few congressmen that showed up have definitely showed that. Is that middle of the road or slightly left complacent white guy? Is he like more up in arms now than he was 2 days ago? And will some leaders on the right, besides Mike Pence, if you can still call him a leader, I mean, does the veneer, does the power, does the cultishness of Trump, I hate to call it, I don't like to use the term Trump's a cult because I think it's just racism, not a cult, but but there's enough people who think it's cult. Like, does that Trump cultishness lose some of its steam because he did ride, part of the wave he was riding on was that he was a great businessman. And that, right? And now, at least a portion of the people who thought that are questioning it. There's still some hanging in there saying you got to give him time. This is genius move. He's going to make America economically independent. You have to be patient with him, right? All the things that no one is on the other side. But I got to believe that there's got to be some decline in the fanaticism for Trump by at least a portion of the people that are following him. And that's why if we have bigger numbers on the protest side and have a better message and keep hammering him more consistently, we just have to keep peeling people off.
Right.
Until it tips over and, there's a realization that change has to be made.
Think about the numbers that were peeled off after 1.0, right? The Scaramucci's, the traditional Republicans, the people who said, what's her name? Melissa Farah.
Farah.
The communications secretary. Think about the people that said, I'm out of here. Cassidy Hutchinson, right? The people like that who have, so a moral compass still left in them, who said, I am not for this. I'm not trying to go to jail for this guy. Think about all those people, because none of them are back, right? It's only the sycophants that are back.
Yeah.
So where is the disconnect between an uber rich guy like Scaramucci and, let's say, some of your friends that you were watching basketball with last week? Like, why is Scaramucci? Well, maybe because he had it up front and close.
Exactly,
seat.
Saw it closer. That's my answer there.
Yeah, that might be it. But what does it take to get those guys off the couch and say, you know what, man, my 401k is taking a hit there? Because those guys are doing well. I know those guys.
Yeah,
and they're doing really well.
I mean, I mean, it has to be a little bit of shock to the system, but then so is COVID, and then we bounced back. So I think there's still, it's only been 2 days. I think there's a sense of, you just ride these things out and they'll work themselves out, or someone will make it work out. I just feel like there's certainly just not enough of a realization or sense of urgency of how bad Trump 2.0 is. He's older.
Right.
He's in mental decline. He's fucking crazier. He's stupider. He's surrounded by, more zealots.
Right.
But they're also not as qualified. So things are easier to go off in a crazier and stupider direction, which we're seeing in just about every action. Not only is it more extreme, it's more extreme being executed more poorly. So
Right.
all these things go off the rails. That's why we send regular people to El Salvador jails and then shrug our shoulders after the fact, right? It's a shitty policy being executed in a poor way. And we have that going on all over the place. Like you mentioned, HHS, right? Bad policy, poor execution. So now the measles outbreak just continues and continues.
Right, and who knows what else they were working on at the CDC, right? And all those amazingly talented scientists, 10,000 people already blown up?
Research, Parkinson's research. But, it's not stuff people see tomorrow. We always talk
Right.
about, America's so short attention span country. It always takes the things that hit people right away. So maybe even someone's 401k being hit doesn't even hit them hard enough yet, because it's not money they plan on accessing till down the road. So
Right.
it's not that day-to-day money. But
Right. But now I saw an interview with one of the former high-ranking health officials who said, this last round of layoffs at HHS included the guy who probably saved Donald Trump's life by creating the vaccine that he was given prior to everyone else getting it, that probably saved his life. And he thought, and his words were, someone should march into Donald Trump's office and tell him, hey, they just fired the guy that probably saved your life.
But Trump's
And he
fucking
wouldn't give a shit.
psychopath. He wouldn't give a shit. It's like he did.
Yeah.
Why? Same as he didn't meet the 4 military personnel who died in Lithuania and didn't meet him at the Dover Air Force Base. Right? They got a military send off in Lithuania, honored over there. They fly over here. No one meets him at the fucking airport because Trump's down with the Saudis playing golf at Doral. I mean,
Right.
It's so fucking ridiculous that it still continues to be amazing that there's a portion of the American people who think that's leadership.
Right.
And as I say, here we go back to Florida Congressional District 1, right? With all
Right.
those fucking veterans. 3 days ago, they voted in another MAGA congressperson, right? Yeah, it was closer than usual. But you know what? All those vets in that district, right? They actually voted for MAGA/racism.
Right.
Instead of voting for someone who actually even gives a shit or respects their service.
Right.
That's how deep in the hole they are, that they would rather have their racism than a respect for their own service. Because they knew this wasn't the first time Trump didn't show up at Dover or treated the vets like shit. Like they literally agreeing, yes, we're willing to be treated like shit because Donald Trump's making America great again, because we're kicking out
getting rid of them.
Yeah, because I can, it's just an amazing. But they had the chance to walk into the voting booth 3 days ago and send a message to the Trump administration,
and refused to do it. So take a look at it. Take a look at it from a black and brown perspective. You have basically qualified everything we've been yelling and screaming over the past 250 years, that America was founded and runs on racism.
You're a little slow, but you come around, like Cuba Gooding said to Tom Cruise. You're a little slow, but you come around.
Don't sit there and tell me, that it's raining when you're pissing on me, right? This is what we've been saying. It's all about the racism, the systemic racism in the professional arena. In the sports arena, we know it's been about racism. When it comes to Education, we know it's been about racism, right? When it comes to accumulating wealth, it's been about racism. When it comes to redlining, it's been about racism. Every aspect of our society. Think about it. I moved to Detroit, Michigan in 1998, right? One of the biggest cities in the country in terms of land mass. They didn't have one supermarket chain within city limits, right? Where are you supposed to go to get fresh food, fresh meats, fresh vegetables? If you can't get a good meal and a good diet, sustain a good diet as a young child, how are you going to learn in school when you're hungry? How are you going to learn in school when you're eating rotten meats and rotten foods and stuff that's been sitting on shelves in some bodega for months at a time? And then we wonder why there's an education gap, and why there is so many dropouts, and we have such a poor result when it comes to educating African American young kids. Like IEPs, now they're talking about getting rid of IEPs in education. Thank you for validating what we've been saying. Systemic racism exists. And oh, by the way, it's on display in just about every action this clown has taken over the last 75 days.
You know what, Mark? Trump treats all of us the way America has treated black people. And that's what white people are getting tired of.
Right? Quickly, huh?
I think that's the fucking wake-up call to white America, and it's taken a while for it to sink in and for it to sort of shake people. I'm still curious how many white people are out on the streets tomorrow. But yeah, he has disdain for everyone. He hates black people the most, but he kind of has a disdain for everyone because he doesn't give a shit about anyone. Like I said earlier, family. There's no friends, allies. You know what? That guy who saved his life, Trump doesn't give a shit. Sucker and a loser. Fuck him. He's, there's no loyalty factor.
He needed to do his job. He should have been doing his job.
There's no thank you, right? There's no gratitude. That, what's he going to do for Trump today? Trump doesn't remember yesterday.
Right.
He needs to go in the doji cuts.
And to your point, where's Jared and Ivanka? We haven't seen them. We haven't seen them.
Bernie was going after Jared again today because talking about the turning the Gaza into Riviera. He's working on the golf club and resort plans.
Is that Jared's pet project? Okay,
that's Jared's thing. He's a real estate guy. Yeah,
it's all a grift. The slumlord Jared is going to turn the Gaza Strip into resort property. What they're sickening, bro. They are the Trump family is sickening as a whole, right? Just when you think, they didn't want anything to do with this, they're off, trying to turn somebody's, utter despair and unfortunate disfortune into, a money-making, resort property.
And Israel's back in Gaza, sweeping people out and continuing the fight when we thought it was a ceasefire. Now it's not, right? And now they're in there bombing people again, and no one's paying attention because there's so much shit going on here. And now that they've thrown anyone who protested is now sitting in a fucking dark hole in New Mexico, right? Jammed into some sort of for-profit prison. So we're not getting the protest as much about that. Anyone who says a negative word or posts on social media is getting deported. The dissent there, except Bernie came out and spoke for them, saying this is ethnic cleansing that's going on over there. But yeah, I think that's what Jared is. That's the project that's sort of in his portfolio of things to do.
Yeah, well, good for them. If they think that's the way, they'll have to answer for this at some point. Because life is short.
Only if the pendulum swings back, and this time it swings back harder. Like I said, maybe that's the one solace disillusion Black American take is that when this pendulum swings all the way here, when it does come back, it won't come back with a head of DOJ Merrick Garland type, right? It's going to come with a fucking firebrand who's going after people, not someone who swept it under the rug for 4 years, right?
Yeah.
So things maybe come back with some true, retribution in mind and justice in mind, and not playing to the status quo, playing to the whoa, we need to make some serious changes around here.
Exactly. And hey, How about a round of applause for Eugene Robinson for telling Jeff Bezos to go kick rocks? Get the hell out of here. You know, this guy's a Pulitzer Prize winning journalist who is a journalist with a big J, Brock, who told this guy, go kick rocks. This editorial shuffle is ridiculous. You're kowtowing to this uneducated moron, and you expect us to do it too? You know, thank goodness he's in a position to not have to compromise, you know, his ability and, you know, his opinion processes and his journalistic ethics, you know, to kowtow to someone like Donald Trump, who couldn't hold Eugene Robinson's jock or his dirty underwear. So get out of here. You know, and I wish more people would.
And fuck Bezos. Yeah, I don't know where Eugene Robinson. I didn't see where he announced where he's going. I think he just did like a stay tuned. So I'm okay. I'm trying not to be as knee jerk about having people resign day one. You know, I'm okay. They take their time. They get their ducks in a row. Then they make their move.
That's the situation.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I'm tired of the Bezos fucking. I don't want to hear about his fucking wedding and who's going, like Oprah and all these people who somehow want to go to his fucking wedding and who want to go up in his little spaceship with his wife. Like, I have just no tolerance for the people that think like this is like, you know, bread in circuses, right? And they can just go along and just, you know, do fun things with people who are helping to destroy democracy. I mean, this is frivolous shit, and this is easy place to make a statement.
Yeah. Did you catch Oprah's?
I'm disappointed in anyone who doesn't.
Yeah. Did you catch Oprah's hour-long special?
Nope.
Yeah, she had an hour-long special. I think it was week before last, and it may have been. It was a women's health issue. But you know, my thing is that's great. I love it. I think it's an important topic. But also that the house is burning down. Like, Oprah, when are you going to get out here in front and start doing some real reporting with your resources on what's happening to our democracy? Yeah. Exactly. Yeah. Look, I know it's a beautiful living overlooking the Palisades and staring out into the abyss over the Atlantic Ocean every morning. But you know what? God damn it, not everybody lives like that, right? And you know what? You can count the houses on Oprah's block. All right, because she owns the entire block. You know, there is no block there. Right? You can't even see the neighbors.
No, anyone who has a platform that's not using it is a disappointment. I saw Obama coming out and even saying a few more things negative to Trump the other day, right?
Yeah.
Kamala was interviewed somewhere yesterday saying, I'm not going, you know, I'm not disappearing on you. I think that was the message I took away. Like, I didn't really watch it. I just saw some blurbs that at least she was, you know, showed herself as a presence again. You know, anyone who has a voice and a platform has to be using it. You know, shit, if Mike Pence can get out and fucking punch Trump in the nose, Obama and Kamala certainly can, and Oprah certainly can, right? I mean...
Right. And hey, all you need is a telephone and a Wi-Fi connection. If you've got something to say, that's all Obama, Biden, Oprah, that's all they need. I mean, look at Mark Cuban. Mark Cuban is out here going pretty hard.
Yeah, he had some good days. The business shit. He's trying to fight for small businessmen.
Yeah.
I mean, it's a field, right? I mean, I get a little frustrated at the Cubans of the world that, like, I mean, they try to a lot of people like Cubans sometimes try to deal with Trump on like logical terms.
Can't do it.
Like he's someone that you're going to reason with, and then he's going to digest the facts and change his mind and have a more in-depth analysis because you provided him, you know, better factual information. Like, he's a fucking moron. He can't digest the facts. He'll never change his mind and show that he changed his mind because he just has to double down on whatever is in there to begin with. So I just don't like the sense of, because that's not enough sense of urgency, right? Maybe that plays to the reader, but that doesn't play to Trump. Like, to me, Trump has to be just punched in the nose over and over and over again, but by hundreds and thousands of people. And then eventually millions of people in the street. Like, he only responds to when others have more power than him. So
Yes,
we as
sir.
Americans have to show him that he's losing power and that he's going to lose power. And then maybe the self-preservationist in him will change behavior. He'll pretend like it was his idea and so he'll feed us lies. He'll gaslight his way through it. But that's the only way to get changed behavior. Even though I don't think that's likely to happen, I think in the end, we're going to have to overwhelm the American public in terms of protest. And we're going to have to, in essence, scare the Republicans who have power to go against Trump because they'd rather go against him than go against the masses of the American people. They have
Exactly.
to fear us more than they fear Trump. And
Exactly.
right now they don't. And we're going to have to show huge numbers.
Well, let's hope it starts tomorrow, my friend. So,
Wouldn't you know, it's going to drop about 35 degrees.
no.
And it's going to be raining tomorrow in New York City. Yeah, you think there's a God? No, God would have given us a 72-degree day so we get
No
millions of
doubt.
people out there. No, you know,
No doubt.
it's really going to test how uncomfortable people are willing to be here,
Right.
here in the Northeast.
Oh, man.
I'm confident. I think we're going to barrel through it.
Pray for sunshine. All right, my friend. We'll check it out. We'll talk tomorrow. Let's take it to the streets, people.
Okay,
We will
yeah. It's
see you
gonna
guys
get
on the next
interesting in
episode.
24 hours. Yep.
Yes,
All right,
sir.
Mark. Thank you.
All right, Brock.
Okay.
Peace.
Bye-bye.